Deal Hajj and Umrah tour operator.
Children need to be adopted for many reasons, usually because they have experienced abuse or neglect. It's a sad fact that Muslim children wait the longest to be adopted. There simply aren't enough Muslim couples coming forward to offer these children a loving home. Every child deserves the opportunity to live with a loving family, a family who will nurture and support them into adulthood and beyond. By adopting, you can help change a child's life and your own. Contact Tower Hamlets today to find out more about how you could adopt.
Chowdhury's World Buffet, voted North London's best new restaurant and best dining experience. Our new world-class chefs combine a la carte quality in an elegant family environment. With over 60 dishes to choose from, Chowdhury's invites you and your family to indulge yourself in the refined tastes and the new improved cuisines we have on offer.
We are located at 198 to 202 4th Street, Edmonton, London. Chowdhury's, the world on your plate.
Leica Mobile is giving you a fantastic offer to call Pakistan. When you buy the UK plan, get 500 minutes, unlimited text to any UK network, unlimited Leica Mobile to Leica Mobile calls, and 1 GB data for just £10. Plus, call Pakistan landlines 5p per minute and mobile 7p per minute. So what are you waiting for? To buy the bundle, dial the code on the screen. For more information and your free Leica Mobile SIM, visit leicamobile.co.uk today. Terms and conditions apply. Leica Mobile. Call the world for less.
The Qur'an came down as a final guidance from Allah, and yet we sometimes lack that bond with its words. How can we increase our relationship with the Qur'an through recitation? This and more on today's Women's AM. Assalamu alaikum, my sisters, and welcome to Women's AM. It's the show that brings you news, discussions, tips, and much more. We're live from our London studios, and in today's show, we have our roundup on the day's stories of interest in News Bites, and we discuss a very important subject in her views. We'll be taking a look at recitation of the Qur'an, and we'll also be looking at a dilemma in our third segment. So, sisters, assalamu alaikum. We've got our lovely usual panelist, Zainab, and our special guest today, Sister, should I say Dr. Abir Ashrud. How are you guys this morning?
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I was thinking about what we all do for a living, and then I thought to myself, you know, it'd be really interesting to know what everyone would have wanted to do if they weren't doing what they're already doing. So what would you be doing if you weren't a doctor, Sister Abir?
If I were not a doctor, I would want to be an astronaut. So this is like my childhood dream. So I said maybe I'll be a doctor, maybe I'll be an astronaut. So I'm a medical
astronaut. MashaAllah,
yeah.
That'd be amazing. What about you, Zainab?
I have so many interests in so many things, like from flower arranging to business owner to subhanAllah, so many things. Social worker, anything.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a bit all over the place.
I always have, you know me well enough to know that as soon as I got a chance to travel, I do that. So I think if I wasn't doing this, I probably want to be a travel blogger, so traveling around and, you know, experiencing different cultures and that sort of thing. Yeah. So Jazakallah khair, sisters. So now on to our first segment of the show, News Bites. In this segment, we take a look at the day's stories of interest and we discuss what's been happening around the world. Before we do that, I'd like to remind you all that this is a live show and we would really love for you to call in and give us your comments. So, Sister Zainab, what have you got for us this morning?
Quite a worrying story. Parents are unaware of dangers faced by children on smartphones from the BBC. So it's just explaining that a poll was done regarding smartphones, and this is kind of the new piece of technology that a lot of parents are not completely aware of the ins and outs of in terms of how it can affect their children. So many parents will put parental controls on their internet at home, you know, their PC, that kind of thing. But when it comes to the phone, it's exactly the same thing. It has the same kind of access to the internet and all these other things that would normally concern us. Yeah, you can have so many different types of social media accounts and things like that on your phone anyway, isn't it? So it was saying 1 in 5 children said that they had seen something on their devices that had upset them, twice the number parents had originally had thought. 20% of parents do not monitor what the children are doing online, and it goes on like that. For me, it kind of comes back to a central issue that these concerning elements of society are growing. So, you know, whereas we're trying to protect our children from these things, there's kind of all these other ways of getting to, you know, of this kind of influence, maybe negative influences of getting to our children, isn't it? So from the Department of Education, they released a document talking about the parental internet controls, and they were saying that key findings showed that pornography, sexual messages, gambling, violence, drugs and alcohol are amongst the top 5 harmful things which parents said their children are exposed to and concerned about. For me, it's kind of, you know, our children are becoming, again, you know, a casualty of the kind of environment that we live in. And, you know, when we've got values of, you know, freedom and liberalism and things like that, where it doesn't have any kind of boundaries to it, it kind of just, there is so much access to so many things, isn't it? So the sister from the Muslim Youth Helpline came on a couple of days ago, and she mentioned that there is a rise in phone calls about young men becoming addicted to pornography, and even wives calling in to say, you know, my husband is addicted, what should I do? It's just an offshoot of living in basically in that kind of environment. And it's just worrying that while someone is kind of making money and benefiting out of it, our children are becoming, you know,
I read something similar to that actually, and one of the points that I got from the article is the fact that a lot of parents don't have the technological sort of savvy knowledge to know how to either put in the parental sort of controls in place, or that they don't know that their kids are even more technologically savvy and they know how to get around these parental controls. So one thing that I got from that article is that maybe parents should get to grips with sort of the changes in technology and try and learn about these things so that their children don't fall into sort of you know, the dangers of, you know, the internet, you know, such as like maybe internet bullying or groomers or anything like that, and making sure that their kids really are safe on the internet. And I was thinking about it myself. I was thinking, do you know, there are days where I don't know what my son's been on the internet when I do let him on, and I think to myself, you know, it's really scary because you do get pop-ups, don't you? And sometimes, no matter how much sort of control and blocks that you have in place, some things tend to seep through, doesn't it?
We were talking about a young man, a relative, isn't it? And how this young boy, he's actually very home kept, so it's not like he's out in the streets doing whatever, but, you know, he goes to school, he comes back home, his social, you know, environment is his family, yet he's kind of got a Twitter account that he keeps secret from his father, and he's following, you know, glamour models and things like that. That's purely just that one influence from school. You can see how it's affected him. But for me, it's kind of, it's interesting. This is an interesting issue. Where do you place the boundaries? Because you don't want to become so inhibiting upon your children, so inhibiting upon society. And it's interesting the way Islam deals with it. That we have this concept of taqwa, for example, fear of God. But that's a very simplistic way of understanding that. There's so many branch issues that come from that. One being accountability, that we do have this. This is the kind of personality we want to, you know, build in our children, yet when it comes to wider society, it should also be implemented like that, where you don't have people who are able to do whatever they want, but there is, you know, there's certain, you know, regard in terms of how women are portrayed on TV and things like that, and that people aren't allowed to just sell whatever and whenever they want, you know, and to whoever they want even.
Absolutely. I actually came across this article. I found quite funny, actually. It's from The Guardian. It's Oppressed Majority, the film about a world run by women that went viral. So this is a short 10-minute film by Eleanor Pouriat. She's a French feminist. And some years ago, she made a short film about what the world would be like if it was run by women, so a matriarchal society. And what she did was she kind of heightened the sort of issues that women go through through in a patriarchal society, and she transferred that into an opposite. And it follows this man called Pierre, and he lives in a certain unnamed town in France. And unfortunately for him, the society is run by women. So it goes through how he is sexually harassed and assaulted by women, how he's always getting certain comments, unwanted attention, that sort of thing. And when he goes to his wife to discuss the sort of issues and problems he's been facing, his wife would be unsympathetic, or she'd say, oh, you know, I'm really busy, I can't really talk about this right now. And when he goes to the police station to report the abuse that he's faced, it's a female police officer who's taking his statement, and she's kind of raising her eyebrow quizzically, you know, saying, oh, is that really how things have happened? And it was quite funny because it was supposed to show the sort of troubles that women go through, but the fact that she's switched roles and it was a man going through the same problems, people were all of a sudden shocked by, you know, this society and how the man was being treated, when in reality women are treated like that. And I thought it's really, really funny that we have to do this role reversal in order to get, you know, some sort of empathy and understanding towards what somebody's going through. Whereas if it was just a woman, it's like, you know, it's not a big deal. You're just being emotional, sort of thing. What do you think?
I think this is so important to raise awareness what's the woman actually facing on a daily basis, and this should be like eye-opener for the man, or even for the government, or for even the people who put the law. Like, this is what the women suffer daily basis. So I think this is so important to use, like, the media or doing this documentary about this. I think it's a good job. Like,
you know, it was quite funny though, well, not funny, but sad in a way, is that once her video went viral, she started getting a lot of abuse from people online sending her messages, and it actually shows the issue she was trying to raise. I mean, Zainab, what would you have to take from that sort of?
You know, it's just really sad that you have to go through all this trouble to kind of shout out, please understand what we're going through, and it's completely unnecessary. And again, that's what I love about Islam. It's like it doesn't depend on the experiences and the mutual understanding of what's going on. Allah understands us, so He's created these laws specifically catered to what a woman needs, what a man needs, what a child needs, what society needs, what everyone needs, isn't it? That you don't treat women like that because you don't treat women like that. It's unacceptable. That's haram. You know, that will be enforced against, you know, in Islamic society. So.
But it's nice though. It's a nice turn of events. Okay, Zainab, what is your next article?
A bit of an odd title from the Telegraph, Islamic Preachers, the Pied Pipers of Sexual Apartheid. It's one of these gender segregation articles that keep coming up all the time, basically making a big deal out of nothing. Essentially, it's written in a very strange way. It basically paints a bit of a dodgy view of a speaker who's described as being moderate in his speech and the talk that he gave, yet he is ultra-orthodox in his view, because he basically, within the room, they enforced, or they had segregation, so the women and the men were sitting apart from each other. I just thought it would be useful to kind of maybe have some helpful pointers if we come across these kind of discussions, you know, in our daily lives, how to deal with it. First of all, gender segregation is not something that is imposed. For the people, especially who are sitting in that room, those people wanted that. You know, the men wanted to be apart from the women as much as the women wanted to be apart from the men. It is a mutual thing. Neither wants to sit together. Secondly, segregation. This concept of segregation is part of Islam. It's clearly seen in the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Even in the situations where men and women were allowed to kind of mix together, there was a case where the Prophet ﷺ in the marketplace would call for the women to be on one side and the men on the other, even when it was halal. And you can see this general understanding that just to be apart when you can be apart. But of course, there are many situations where we are allowed to be together. Again, what you see with the Sahaba and Sahabiyat, you see that they would learn together, gain education together. They would visit the sick. They would do Hajj together. You know, there's many different examples of that. But it's still something that is, you know, this is clearly part of Islam. It is not an extremist view. This is so that phrase ultra-orthodox is definitely trying to make that point. It is, and it has always been practiced by Muslims one way or another. Even within the family home, don't we naturally, you know, segregate when there's lots of family around? There's a thought there. And then another thing is that they tried to make it a women's rights issue, which is complete nonsense. You know, you have segregated schools, segregated gyms. You have so many cases where this exists, yet this is something that they want to make a point about, that these women are kind of held against their will. It's just absolute nonsense.
But it's quite funny because, like he was saying, even in normal situations, you know, people would want to naturally sort of sit apart, isn't it? Women always feel more comfortable talking with women, and men tend to want to hang about and chat with men. So I don't see what the issue is there. Mr. Abir, what's your take on this issue?
I think if we go back again to Prophet ﷺ life, there is not too much separation between man and woman. Like they were praying in the same mosque, and even after finishing the prayer, the one who collect sadaqah, he's a man and he go collect from the woman. When they do Hajj, they do it together. You know, like at that time the resources so little. We don't have these facilities now. Of course, the women, they have their own needs, and their needs is different from the needs of the man. Maybe this is for their own comfort. If they choose, they want this, why not? But like for education, they were together before at Prophet ﷺ time. So I think we shouldn't exaggerate in this. Like if this is for their own comfort, you know, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though. There's a lot of things that is blown out of proportion, isn't it, when it comes to Islam. So unfortunately, we're going to have to stop there. So another interesting selection there. Jazakallah khair, sisters, for that. But before we go for the break, a reminder about our competition this week. We are giving away 3 men's T-shirts from We Hear, We Obey. So this week there will be 3 winners for a chance to win these fabulous goodies. All you have to do is answer the following question. Who is the first half of the Qur'an? Was it A, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, B, Jibril alayhi salam, C, Ibrahim alayhi salam? To enter your answer A, B or C to Women's AM at islamchannel.tv, along with your name and address and what you most like about Women's AM. The deadline for entries is Friday 14th of February at 4 p.m. All applicants need to be over 18 and residing in the UK. Please note that there's only 1 entry per person per household. Winners will be randomly selected from correct entries, and the winner's name will be announced on Monday's show. So get entering and don't go anywhere, as we're going to be delving into the very important topic of reciting the Qur'an. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. You're watching Women's AM with myself, Ayan, and on the panel with me today is Sister Zainab and our special guest, Dr. Abir. So, Dr. Abir, we've had you, mashallah, on the show before. We know that you're a medical doctor and at the moment you're doing some research. How do you balance your scientific sort of profession and your Islam?
You know, like what I'm doing actually is independent research, and for me, I don't find any contradiction between Islam and science. I find them go together, and actually, because I read a lot, so the more I read, the more like I feel there are so many scientific facts, so many scientific miracles in our Quran, especially in our field, which I'm in medicine. So I feel we need to do more research, we need to read more, we need to even like do proper research about these things. So the more I do, the more like I fall in love with doing these things. Yeah, so.
Sister, how did you get into public speaking and teaching Islam?
Public speaking, it was like, actually I was like doing this, like talking with my friends, talking with my family, and every time I talk with people, I notice like they start gathering around me and they start to want to know more. So like, for example, when I was talking about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam food, and I was talking how this like, how the date is good, like it's good for your health, and how I was starting talking about Islamic solution to depression and these things. So I start notice people the need for this, the people missing the practical Islam actually. The people, they don't want, like, they want something they can apply it in their life. And this is like, for example, if I talk about prayer and I talk the benefit of prayer and how, like, for example, prayer protect us from Alzheimer's disease, like, as you know, like, this is just an example, because most of the causes like of Alzheimer is ischemic brain disease or like sometimes hemorrhagic. But the way we do sujood is we increase the blood supply to the brain. So once we increase the blood supply to the brain, then in this case, and once we sit again, then the blood goes back again, and this improve the elasticity of the arteries of the brain, and also increase the blood supply to the brain, and this protect us from Alzheimer. And if you notice, most of Sheikh and Imam, they don't have Alzheimer. Even they reach their 100 or 80 and they don't have this. So many things, like I think we need to do more research about it. We need to look. And alhamdulillah now, like I have a friend, she's a medical doctor, she's British and she's revert, and she start like interested in this, and she will join me and we'll make a team. And I have another sister, she's a psychologist, and she wants also to change.
So we've got, mashallah, more and more sisters coming into this.
Yeah, more, because we need, because I think Islam is practical, like it's a way of life. So we need to do more research about
mashallah,
this.
which is going to tie in nicely with our discussion today, mashallah.
Inshallah. Thank you very much.
Moving on to today's topic, let's go straight to her views, where today we discuss the topic of reciting the Qur'an. The month of Ramadan, in which was revealed the Qur'an, a guidance for mankind and clear proofs for the guidance and the criterion. This is from Qur'an, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 185. Truly a mercy and a guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are well aware of its ability to solve all the problems we face in life, big or small. However, there are many other benefits and rewards and duties we may be overlooking. Today, we discuss the importance of reciting the Qur'an. So, Sister Abir, I wanted to come to you first and ask you, what is our duty towards the Qur'an?
First, Qur'an is a book from, and it's a word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this book comes as a guidance for us in this life. Even it will lead us to paradise, inshallah. So our duty first is to believing in this book, like this is a book from Allah, and this is the third pillar of Islam, like believing this. Quran is more like a book, like do or don't. Like there are so many miracles, like in Quran, as I told you, like for me in my medical field, where I try to find as much as I can, and also like so full of stories, like I think the best way, like to teach someone, or to, for example, for your kids or for someone, the best way to make them understand the things is to make it like a story. Even the best way to remember the things is to make it like a story, or imagine a story or something. So I think the Quran has amazing way, like, so we should like read it, and not just any read, like read it and understanding. So this is the first thing we should do, like believing this is a book of Allah. Then we go to recite it, and not just recite like you read by your own thoughts or something. No,
with your tongue.
You speak,
yeah.
And not just read like some people, they don't even make an effort to know the tajweed. Sometimes tajweed even change the meaning. So I think it's so important, like once we read Quran, we read it with tajweed. So once, and also I noticed some people, like they have excuse, like they said, oh, we are not Arab, the language is difficult or something like this. But the people who try to do this, and even if they are not Arab and they are reading Quran, their rewards will be much
greater than the person who's a speaker.
The people who are, this is their own language. So like I think even if you make like efforts God will understand this, that will understand you go
and reward you, and inshallah make it easy
inshallah,
for you.
Yeah.
Just to remind our viewers, please do call in. This is a live show. The number should be appearing on your screen shortly. So call us with any comments or questions, inshallah. So Sister Zainab, I wanted to ask you, what are the general rewards of reciting the Quran?
MashaAllah, there's so many. I thought I'd relate to some to you right now. So there's a hadith from At-Tirmidhi that says, whoever reads a letter from the book of Allah, he will have a reward. That reward will be multiplied by 10. I'm not saying that alif, lam, mim is a letter. Rather, I'm saying alif is a letter, lam is a letter, and mim is a letter. So increase your recitation of the Quran, to gain all the merit. SubhanAllah. So it's just even the smallest of words, and there's other hadiths that talk about people who struggle, because normally, when you read and it's really difficult, and it can be quite off-putting, because it can be so difficult, to get that beautiful flow, isn't it? But this hadith as narrated by Bukhari says that, verily the one who recites the Quran beautifully, smoothly and precisely will be in the company of the noble and obedient angels. As for the one who recites with difficulty, stammering and stumbling through its verses, then he will have twice the reward. MashaAllah. And there's other hadiths and accounts from even the Umar radiallahu anhu. He was talking about it's quite a long story, and he was basically saying that, you know, that there was someone he gave authority to lead the salah, and he was actually said, you know, the Prophet ﷺ said, verily that Allah raises some by this book and lowers some people by it. You know, it goes beyond even reciting it. It has so much, you know, there's so much reward in it on so many different levels, but it's about kind of understanding it as well, not just reciting.
And some people, I think, tend to forget as well that not all the Sahabas were Arabs as well. Yeah, subhanAllah, a lot of them weren't Arabs, and they've had to learn, just as maybe a lot of us non-Arab speakers or reverts have had to learn, you know, to, inshallah, recite the Qur'an and to learn its meaning and everything like that. So maybe that's, in a way, something hopeful as well for them, inshallah, that they can sort of attain the sort of level that the Sahabas did. But what are the effects of, you know, in the next life of having, you know, a close relationship with the Qur'an, Dr. Abir?
It will be Qur'an. If we read Qur'an and if we learn it in this life, it will be a proof for us in the Judgment Day, where there is no one like in your favor. So the Qur'an will come to be in your favor, and it will. And at that time, you need even just a little deed or any good deed to add to your deeds. So I think it's so important to be to realize the importance of reading Qur'an either in this life or in the other life. And also it will be like intercessor for us, which is like at that time no intercession will take place except like by God's permission. And also like Qur'an also will determine our position in the paradise. So I think it's so important. Even like it will take you to higher level in paradise if you are from the people who are reading Qur'an, and be careful to read it with tajweed and understand it and work with it. You know, like for example, Qur'an is not just like we read it. We have to apply it in our life. And once you apply it to our life, you will do good. And of course, this will lead you to be in paradise, inshallah.
Zainab, would you have anything to add to that? I'm sure
Absolutely. I think this relationship between